Hi, lovelies. Welcome back to Craig's Corner, East Africa's first mental health and autoimmune focused podcast. And today I am being joined by an amazing doctor, Dr. Carl Rothschild, who is a pioneer in red light therapy and the founder of Trifecta Light. Welcome to Craig's Corner podcast, Dr. Carl.
Hey, thank you so much. I love getting the opportunity to educate and to share the knowledge that I've acquired over these many years. So it all started in 1972, a long time ago, when I was a junior at Stony Brook University which is a very good school in New York City. I'm sorry, in New York State. And I was a really good student, and I was very into biology and science and stuff like that, but I didn't know how that was going to translate into my future. And then I got introduced in 1972 to the idea that maybe I'd become a chiropractor. And believe me, chiropractic was pretty much frowned upon in New York in particular, but I went for it. My goal in life was to help people. I know it sounds corny, but I really had that intention. I get joy. I get a kick out of helping others. And so my intentions were not so much being directed towards how much money I could make, but rather yet how many people I could help. And so then I became a chiropractor. In 1978, I started as a chiropractor, which is like 48 years ago. And I loved it. I mean, I always had a great experience. And then about 27 something years ago, I was introduced by a medical doctor out here in California who was really one of the initial pioneers on red light therapy. And he hands me what looks like, and I knew him prior to himself getting introduced to red light therapy. And he hands me something that's about this big that looks like a flashlight. And he said, I'm going to give this to you to use for a bit of time in your practice. And I want you to come on board with me and help me save the world. It's like, I thought he was crazy. I mean, shining a light on somebody that could make such a big difference, it didn't make any sense to me. But I agreed to use it, and we did in our practice. And within a month, we saw some very nice results. In fact, imagine the device that I was using back then, it was thousands of times weaker than what we use today. And yet, and still back then, we had some nice results with it. I mean, it was obvious that it was going to help me do things that I couldn't do otherwise. I just went to my patient and say, the only thing we knew back then was that for sure you couldn't hurt somebody with it. So let's try. So I would ask them, what do you have that I haven't been already working on? And this person said, well, I have gum disease. I helped her with a gum disease. And this guy said, I have kidney disease, and helped him with his kidneys. And it kept going on, things like that were not necessarily anything that I had worked with them before. But of course, I also used it on all the musculoskeletal issues, all kinds of stuff. And we had very nice results. And so I got really heavily involved with red light therapy. And that was a class 1. We went to a class 2, 3, and then finally a class 4, which is the ultimate in light therapy, and with very nice results. Then about 14, 15 years ago, it was discovered that there was an element of light that could actually shrink fat cells. And I had not been using this element of light in my practice. And we all know I know you're not in the United States, but I can tell you that in the United States, weight loss is a big deal. It's a huge deal. And imagine we could now offer somebody an opportunity to lose fat and not put anything in their body that doesn't belong. They're not yanking anything out, not destroying any tissues. It's not like freezing the fat or boiling the fat or lasering the fat. It's not like radio frequency or ultrasonic cavitation. It's not about destroying fat cells. Fat cells have a bad rap because they have a lousy name, but fat cells are essential tissue. They are involved with stem cell production, hormone production. You don't want to kill them. You don't want to get rid of them. So what other method? Well, this light therapy actually manages with fat loss in a way that was unexpected. That actually what happens is the fat cells actually become more porous for just a few hours. And at that time, some of the fat contents leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with our unique protocol, we move the fat away from the fat cells and eventually to the liver for use or elimination. It's that simple. There is no chance of injuring somebody. There are no side effects. In fact, in the 50 years that this technology has been studied of red light therapy, there has never been a recorded side effect. So at any rate, so there I am learning that red light, a certain element of light, can actually help with shrinking fat cells. All healthy, no issue. And it's huge. So you got to know that at that point, I decided to get even more involved with red light therapy, and I started manufacturing back then. Then about 5-something years ago, COVID hit. And immediately my practitioners called, and we had hundreds all over the country, and they contacted us and said they would like a different method of treatment that required less physical contact between the patient and themselves. And so we came up with the bed. I don't know if you can see the bed here. This is a 5th generation bed. So the one that we had originally, that was our first bed that we made. And it was great. I mean, we had really interesting results for the fat loss aspect. But what we didn't anticipate once we started shipping this out was some of the miracles that were happening. And what we have since learned is that when you bathe the whole body, see, up to that point, I was involved with lasers and I was involved with pads that covered parts of the body. But what we have since learned is that when you cover the whole body at the same time, that's when you see the big difference. Let me give you an example. Can you imagine someone calls up? I want everybody to pretend like they're a health practitioner. And someone calls you up and says, listen, I'm having a heart attack once, if not twice a week. Can you help me? I mean, have you ever heard of somebody having heart attacks on a regular basis like that? Because I hadn't. And so what they had done 12 years ago, or 13 years, something like that, they had implanted a defibrillator in his chest. So every time he died, it would zap him back to life. We weren't sure we should even treat him. But I told the practitioner, I said, let's just treat him for 5 minutes, stay in the room the whole time. And, that's it, and let the patient then go home. So the patient went home that night, and that was about 2 years ago. That patient's had more treatment, but has never had a heart attack since. Hundreds of heart attacks, no more heart attacks. Dying, no longer dying. Every organ, every gland, every tissue in this guy's body has come back to life. Everything. And he's in superb condition. He says, and by the way, I'm going to send you a whole bunch of videos and other show notes and whatnot that you can certainly send to your audience if you'd like. But it has to do with the fact that this gentleman says what he didn't expect was that his energy would be through the roof. What he didn't expect is that his erectile dysfunction would no longer be a problem, and everything had come completely back to life. And I have a bunch of stories that are like that. And did we anticipate that? Not at all. But it was a great surprise. And then again, what we learned is that when you bathe the whole body from head to toe, left and right, front and back, inside and out, that's when you see these miracles. And that's when we really got totally crazy with red light therapy. I mean, I was in love with it before, and now I'm beyond that. And by the way, to build a business throughout, people have to understand in building a business, if you want referrals from your business, satisfied patients are not the ones that refer, or satisfied anybody. If someone comes out of a restaurant and they go, that was good, they're not going to refer. They're not going to go crazy. It's either a strong negative. On the positive side, it's excited patients, excited people that refer. And when you have people that couldn't walk and now they're walking, or for example, this gentleman who was dying from heart attacks and now is not, that's excitement. So when he goes to church and he talks to the pastor and says, hey, by the way, look at me now. I had a heart attack in your facility not that long ago. Look at me now. And the parishioners, all the other fellow churchgoers would come up to him. And one lady in particular said, you are totally different. You've found life. And he goes, yep, red light therapy. Wow. And he wound up opening his own office up because he was so like me. I mean, I don't know if the word's obsessed, but I absolutely love this stuff. I told you in 1972 that my goal and intention was to help people as much as I possibly could. And now I get more than ever the phrase, thank you for giving me my life back. Why do you think I got involved that many years ago? Not just about making money. I don't mind making money, but that was not my intention. My intention was to help as many people. And when you do such a thing, when you have what I think a great goal, you get rewarded down the road. And I was not worried about me getting rewarded. And I just love this. We have a guy named Steve. He had Lyme disease. He contracted it when he was the age of 12. We don't meet him until he's 50. But that at 12 years old and on, it ruined his life. It ruined everything. He couldn't even have a career because he wasn't sure sometimes whether he could even get out of bed and show up for his job or whatever. And he was depressed as heck because his life was not fun. He couldn't have a social life. It just was not great. And then he uses one of our beds, and I'm going to send you this video, but you'll see why this gentleman, Steve, gave me goosebumps as I'm interviewing him. And just to see that, I'm going to suggest that your people watch this video and watch the one that the gentleman's name is Arnett, who's having the regular heart attack. Right. Watching Jessica's video, Jessica had like 16 very serious conditions. And one of the things that she had, amongst many things, was uveitis, which means that her one eye in particular was swollen. She had the pressure in one eye was like 180 when it's supposed to be closer to 10. And go on unchecked, she would eventually lose her eyesight. Well, the treatment for that for her was an injection right in her eye once a month. And then she would also take drops, which cost her copayment. In the United States, we have a lot of money we have to pay. Her copayment alone was $400 a month. And then each of those injections that the insurance paid mostly of was $5,000 per injection. And when I ask her, when you watch this video and I say, Jessica, what was that like to have an injection in your eye? And she just tells you how horrible it was. So at any rate, she starts using our equipment, our bed, and she doesn't have that problem anymore. She doesn't have the psoriasis. She doesn't have the kidney problems, the migraines, the heart condition, all these 16 different things. She doesn't have the 20 years that she had prior of only diarrhea. She doesn't have the shingles issue. And of course, her own Lyme disease is resolved. She used to spend most of her time at the doctor's office or taking pills or injections or whatever. She doesn't need any of that anymore. Now, I'm not allowed to make claims. I'm not telling you that this is what's going to happen to everybody. I'm just reporting the news and telling you these things that we're seeing that are happening, and it's not subtle. I just talked to this lady who was in love with this equipment, this type of therapy, and she referred 18 people to the office where she was going. And what I'm saying is that when someone gets our bed, it will explode their business. And it's not for just everybody, someone who's an accountant, this is not for you unless you buy the company, the equipment and then hire somebody that knows something about the body. They don't have to have a license, a health practitioner's license, but they need to know about the body. You could be a massage therapist, an esthetician, anybody about the hair. In fact, the whole health industry, fitness industry, beauty industry, even weight loss industry, as I described, that it helps with weight loss. And then the other category is athletes. If an athlete gets in the bed before their whatever competition they're in, or even their workout, they'll perform much better. And if they get in the bed again soon after their activity, they'll recover much faster. So that's the reason why our bed is with the NBA, which is the Basketball Association out here in the United States. It's with the Olympic training centers. It's with some other athletic facilities. But we have the world's champion, bare knuckle boxing champ at his weight class. This last July 4th, he won the international thing, and he credits the use of our bed largely for his success. So he gets in our bed for the month. Now he regularly uses the bed, but a month before his bouts, he gets in it as often as he can, like every day. And then after the bout, he'll get in it as often as he can, as much as every day. And his recovery from his, so other sports, you might get injured, but as a boxer, win or lose, you're going to get injured. And he had a split lip one time, and he recovered from that so quickly he couldn't believe. But all the other issues that come with being a crazy bare knuckle boxer, and but I'm just giving you an example of what we've seen with a lot of athletes. And the other thing that I mentioned to repeat is the weight loss aspect as well. So people, you don't have to take my word for this. What I'd like you to do is to go to Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar is scholar.google.com. And I'm going to send you the show notes so you can send this kind of information out. But if you're not familiar with Google Scholar, when you go to Google Scholar, it looks just like Google, but it'll say Google Scholar. But everything else looks very similar. But it's the scholarly version. So then I want you to put in quotes, red light therapy, the phrase red light therapy in quotes, and press enter. And you'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of double-blind studies, research papers, articles, all kinds of stuff relating to red light therapy. Then you can then put anything after that. So you got red light therapy in quotes, and then lupus, or any disease, any process, whatever you're suffering from. So then I want to then challenge each of you. And now our equipment is mostly in the United States. So we don't have anything in Africa, for example. So if your audience is, where is your audience mostly?
Mostly in Kenya.
So those of you in Kenya?
I do have a few in the States, though.
Well, those of you in Kenya, if you can help us, if you find a location, we can certainly put a bed there. The lease is about, and this is American dollars, is about $1,400 a month. But the return on this typically is 10 times. It's not uncommon to see at least 10 times return on investment. And people are going to flock to this. They're going to absolutely love it. But I don't know if people in Kenya really want to spend that kind of money. But the reason why people don't sometimes spend money on themselves is they have no idea how expensive it is to be sick later on in their life, even in Kenya. Because even if it's not the money for the medical or money for drugs or money for surgery or whatever, how about the fact that your life is not nearly as productive, not nearly as fun as you would have otherwise? Most people don't recognize, in fact, let me put it this way. People are not scared enough of what their future is going to be like. And so if they would take care of themselves early on in their lives, their results later. I'm what did I say? I'm 73 years, forget. I'm 73 years old, and I take care of myself. You know why? I don't come from the most disciplined family in the world, believe me. But being a chiropractor and seeing tens of thousands of patients, I've seen a bunch where these people did not take care of themselves. And it's not uncommon for me to sit there and go, please God. I wouldn't say it out loud, but I couldn't help but thinking, please God, don't let me wind up like that. I don't want to be an invalid in the last 10, 20 years of my life. I don't want it to come to the point where I can't feed myself. I can't wash myself, and I can't even wipe myself. I don't want that. I want to be mobile. I want to be active as much as I possibly can. So I do smart things sometimes. I exercise regularly, which I'm going to do right after this talk. I get in the bed regularly, which I'm going to do tomorrow again. I do it anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, if not more, if I can. I love it. And so eating right, exercising right, and using red light therapy is a beautiful combination that we call it the combination of fountain of youth. If you want to, but it's not just about living longer. It's about the quality of life. We call it the difference between lifespan and health span. And really, you want the best health span you possibly get. I liken well-being to like a candle that burns bright all the ways from the top down to the very bottom, and then sputters out and dies. That's how your health and well-being should be like. That's what your life should be like. Not, again, where you spend the last decade or so suffering and not having a fun life. At any rate, with that said, here are a few things I'd like to mention. First of all, if you want to Oh, since we don't have any beds in Kenya, I don't know how to go forward with this, but I do recommend that you go to the website, which is trifectalight.com. Trifecta, and again, I'll send you these show notes. The trifecta stands for, like in the United States, when a person wins a certain element in the horse racing, it's like winning, they call it winning the trifecta. So it's not that I'm a gambler, but that one of our staff members suggested it as a name because of the triple effect from the the triple effect of face, fat, and healing. Face, the skin's going to look phenomenal, the person's going to look younger. Fat loss, we already described, and the overall healing aspect. But the other elements that are involved is also men's health, including erectile dysfunction, women's health, the athletes that I mentioned to you, and even mental health. And I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to believe, but the lights can penetrate the skull, get to the brain, and make some very wonderful changes that will bring joy to people that hadn't experienced joy for many years in their life. So what I'm telling you, as crazy as this sounds, is that you would be hard-pressed to find any condition out there that we have not been able to help. And I apologize if it sounds crazy, but it just happens to be true. So with that said, I just want to mention quickly how it works. We talked about how it works for fat loss. I just want to quickly explain, not going to go into a lot of detail, on how it works for the healing aspect. And what they learned is essentially these types of lights. We only use red and near infrared. We don't use blue or green. And the word infrared is something that you guys should know. The word infrared is, there's no such thing as just infrared. It's either near infrared or far infrared. And far infrared is just heat. Near infrared is the miracle wavelengths that is, we call it cold. It doesn't literally get cold, but it doesn't get hot. Heat is the absolute enemy. Heat delivers and drives more blood to the surface of the body, and that would block the penetration of the light. So we don't want heat. Heat is the enemy. So that's the story about it. So we combined red, which is for fat loss and some healing, and the near infrared. And it has been shown that these wavelengths will stimulate cells in your body to come back to life. And the way that it works is there's this element in every cell of your body called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of your body. It's the reason why you eat food and breathe oxygen, to get the mitochondria to use those elements to create a molecule called ATP, which is the essentially energy currency of the body. In other words, if you have the right amount of ATP in the body, you'll do well. And if you don't have enough ATP in the body, you will suffer, eventually have disease and eventually death. To reverse that, we drive this glorious, essentially, essence of sunlight, magnify it many times, and drive it into the person's body. We don't include the UV light or the other colors that I talked about, just red and near infrared. So with that said, do you have any questions? I think you said you did in the beginning. So what's going on?
You have answered so many of them already. And honestly, one of the first ones was obviously my community is mostly the autoimmune community. So we have lots of fatigue, lots of pain. So you already answered that the red light therapy does address the.
See that? See my mug?
Wow, wow.
Can you
I
read
need
that?
one of
Can you
those.
read?
Get in the bed.
And the reason is because, imagine, in the 50 years we studied this technology, there's never been a recorded side effect. You couldn't hurt somebody if you tried with this stuff. And then on the other hand, there were no real contraindications, meaning anybody can use it. The only ones we kind of stay away from are pregnant women, not because it would be, in fact, it would be helpful to the mother of the fetus, but if that baby comes out anything other than perfect, they're going to want to blame somebody. And we tell everybody, let's not be in that neighborhood. And the other one is cancer. And I'm not even going to go into any detail, but I've been instructed from legal that even though in other countries where they're not worried about lawsuits as much, in the United States where there's too many attorneys here, and they're going to find whatever reason to sue you, no matter what you do. And so we kind of stay away from the word cancer because it's a very controversial thing. And I'm not going to go into any other detail with that. But you can help just about anybody. with just about anything. And I know it sounds like snake oil, but every part of your body is made up of tissues. Every tissue is made up of cells, and every cell has this mitochondria that's so critical. And we can now affect that mitochondria and bring you and the mitochondria and you back to health.
Right. Wow. Okay. So I had planned to ask about mental illnesses and if they can be helped, like depression, anxiety, and you've mentioned depression. Now, is it possible that other mental conditions could be helped as well, like maybe OCD, bipolar?
Okay, so first of all, as in regards to mental health in general, I had a lady that hadn't had been depressed, highly depressed. And after just a relatively short period of time of using the bed, soon after she writes me an email that says, I can't, she said, if this is how normal people feel every day, I can't believe I've been missing out on this my whole life. And so she had not experienced joy in many, many years, and now she does. Now, when you go into the details and specifics, I'm going to tell you my toughest community are psychologists. Because when I talk to them, I go, oh, it's just a placebo. Oh, it's, it's like they refuse, they want to, in this country, they want to use drugs and that's it. And, but from the psychological aspect, first of all, OCD is challenging. But I would, the worst that'll happen is nothing. So I would try it. We have seen some nice results, but I cannot get the cooperation of psychological industry in this country. So we don't have a lot of psychological reviews. But if you go to Google Scholar and put in quotes, red light therapy, and then any of these conditions, including brain trauma, post-traumatic syndrome, things like that, there's a lot of studies on those. As far as, what was the other thing you asked about was bipolar. So bipolar should probably, I don't have direct evidence of that, but I would imagine it would help. Where we've seen some challenges is autism. And it depends on the severity of the autism. We've had some people that were very difficult challenges. But people, autistic individuals who are in a functional state, I would imagine this would be very effective for them. I don't know if I answered your question.
I did not see the autistic bit coming, and that is really encouraging. That red light can reach that far, because I mean, autism is something people are technically born with. You don't really develop it. So to believe that.
I don't. By the way, I do not believe that, but
Really,
I do not believe people are born with autism. I mean, maybe some, but there are other things that can trigger it that is too controversial. So I'm not going to bring it up, like vaccinations, but I won't mention that at all. You didn't hear that from me. But there are other things that are, the baby is very fragile in the first couple of years of their lives. And you'll see many stories where the baby is absolutely normal until something happens. And so I'm not an expert in autism. I'm just telling you that we know that there are no potential side effects. So my suggestion is try it. That's my suggestion. And if you're in Kenya and you have the means, I would suggest help us get a bed in Kenya and start using the heck out of this thing.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, the next concern, especially for people who are chronically ill, is taking a lot of medicines. And these medicines end up causing lots of gut issues. Is red light therapy able to address that as well?
Well, you're asking two questions there. One, would using red light therapy reduce the amount of drugs that someone needs? And I don't know if I can safely say this without the pharmaceutical industry wanting to kill me, but of course, I've already told you that that lady that was on so many drugs, she doesn't need any of that stuff anymore. Now, the second thing is we have had many people with intestinal issues that have seen good resolution using the bed, including 20 years of diarrhea, including other colitis, um, even, I don't know. In fact, if you don't mind, I want to tell you about, in this country, one of the treatments for ulcerative colitis and that type of stuff has horrific side effects. So I'm not going to mention the name of the medication, but it's given as an IV. And so it's called a drip. And then these are biologics, so they charge a fortune for this. And I don't know if you can imagine this. I don't know if you know about the dollar versus your money there, but they charge tens of thousands of dollars for a single dose of this one particular drug, tens of thousands of dollars. So I don't know how that translates in Kenya money, but it's a lot of money here. Do you guys have socialized medicine or what?
Well, I mean, I haven't really looked into that, but I think
So when you go to the doctor, is it largely covered by insurance, or is there
it's a
a lot of
mix.
money? It's a
So,
mix?
yeah, there are some hospitals that require co-payments. There's some medicines and procedures that insurance does not cover. And it's not just a single one insurance. There's several.
And how do you get that insurance? Do you get it automatically because you're a citizen, or
Oh
you have to
no.
work? You have to
You
pay for the insurance?
Yeah, you either work for it or pay for it. And
Yeah, it
different
sounds
companies
similar to
need
what
different packages. So one might
right,
allow certain procedures and the other doesn't.
right. Well, like I said, that sounds very much like what we have here. Look, I believe in capitalism. I actually like capitalism. I feel that when you do well and you're well rewarded, then capitalism will reward you. The problem with socialism in general is that this guy comes in drunk every day and they can't fire him because it's a socialist environment. And this guy works his butt off every day and they both make the same amount of money. It's just not reasonable. It's not fair. And that's what happened to Russia. Russia, I had people in France who didn't even want to get involved with being an entrepreneur because whatever they made over a certain amount, almost their taxes were outrageous. So they said they're not motivated, they're not incentivized in any way to be more successful and to do better. So I believe in capitalism, but in the world of health and well-being, medicine and whatever, it's kind of sad that some people will be treated in a certain way that will make the doctor more money. I'm not saying all the doctors are like that, but too many of them are motivated by the money. And, if you go to a doctor and say, here's an opportunity for you to make a lot of money, and here's an opportunity for you not to make a lot of money, which way are they going to go? So perhaps capitalism in the world of medicine and health and well-being is problematic. I'll leave it at that. At any rate, any other good questions for me?
Right. So obviously in Kenya, most people are of my skin tone. Does this affect how our bodies would receive red light?
Well, when we had weaker lights, interesting enough, the darker the skin, the more absorption of this light occurs. So it actually helps. So we have better success with the weaker devices that we had 27 years ago. It did make a difference. These lights now are so powerful that the difference is going to be subtle. But still, what I'm going to tell you is the darker the skin, the better the results are. So the better the absorption is.
Right.
But it won't be very obvious with the high-end medical grade lights that we have now. That the difference between lighter skin and darker skin is not going to be as significant as it used to be.
All right. And what about people with autoimmunes?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked that because we have phenomenal results with autoimmune. So we have, for example, one of the videos that I want you guys to watch is Joey. Now, Joey had Charcot-Marie tooth disease. The name comes from 3 different researchers, and one of their last names were Charcot, Another one was Marie, and the other one was tooth. So it's Charcot-Marie tooth disease. And this is an autoimmune disease which guarantees the individual, and this particular guy's name was Joey, of 15 years of pain every day, lots of pain, and not really able to walk. And after 6 treatments, he was one of the first ones that looked in the camera and said, and I want to thank you for giving me my life back. And that's what we did. That's what we were able to do for him. So yes, autoimmune, rheumatoid arthritis, just you can think of any autoimmune, phenomenal results. In fact, there was one of our patients had Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. And what that is an element of multiple sclerosis of the retina. It's kind of like multiple sclerosis of the retina. It's eating away the retina. So multiple sclerosis is eating away nervous tissue. The retina is one big nerve, and it's eating away at the retina. And so he was going to go blind, and he surrendered to the fact he was going to go blind, but he started using our red light therapy. And within a relatively short period of time, what we were able to do is halt the progression of LHON. And many of the other symptoms, which included headaches, including migraines, and insomnia, and some other symptoms, they all faded away. So we halted the progression. The sight that he's lost is gone, but he's not going to be completely blind, and he's thrilled.
Yeah, I see that. Now that you've mentioned that, what about hair loss, alopecia, that sort of thing?
Alopecia.
Yeah.
So that's challenging because what the lights do is react to inflammation, react to a disease process, and we're not exactly sure what caused the alopecia. So I can't answer that. We've seen some results with some people, and we didn't see such great results with others. So thank you for finding one of the things that it's not 100% successful with. I have somebody near and dear who we didn't see great results with.
Right. I mean, I am asking of some of the things that I have gone through as part of my journey. So understanding what could be helped and what can't helps with, expectation of results. Yeah. Right. So we who have autoimmunes tend to take immunosuppressants. So if red light therapy is reaching our inside parts, yet our inside parts are being eaten and destroyed by other inside parts, being our immune system, how does it balance out?
As a natural healer, I know that the body knows more than anybody. We call it innate intelligence. The body knows what it's doing. So if we can assist the body, these things will no longer be an issue, conceivably. So I would try it, get in the bed, and see what happens. It'll take 6 visits. I challenge each of you to try it 6 times. That's 3 times a week for 2 weeks. It's 12 minutes a dose, and see if you don't notice a big difference. And typically you will see at least some difference that you haven't experienced in a very long time.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
I feel like that's a right answer to give.
I don't know any bad answers.
Fair. Okay.
So
Okay.
anything else?
Yes. You have challenged my Kenyan listeners, or rather my East African listeners, to find a way to bring in a bed. And should there, because I know there's someone out there who would be interested, how would that partnership work if an NGO was to say, yes, I can bring one of those in?
Well, each of those are individual. They buy the bed. Now, if they're going to buy the bed for somebody else, then I can have that conversation with them. I have quite a bit of staff that would assist in figuring out the ideal way to do this.
All right.
I do have one thing I want to mention. So your people will go to the trifectalight.com website and go to the Contact Us page. Now, we don't have anybody in Kenya. If you're in the United States, go to the left side of that Contact Us page and request a location closest to you. Maybe we can find an office that you can go try it out. On the right side is the possibility of purchasing such a bed. This is medical grade. There are only a very few medical grade beds out there that are very expensive. Ours is the least expensive and yet the most superior bed out there. I'll just leave it at that. So on the right side is an opportunity to at least see if it makes sense to purchase such a thing. And on the bottom of that contact us page, you can just contact us in general, asking any questions you'd like. So we talked about another thing that I would like to recommend is our YouTube channel. If you want to see some phenomenal videos, go to YouTube and put in, I don't know if you can see it right here, right there, but it says at trifectalight.com. No, it says, don't do that, at Trifecta Light Official. Can you see that? At a Trifecta Light. So you go to YouTube, put in at Trifecta Light Official, and you'll see all of our over 130 videos, and they're really good. Really, really good. So if you are wise, in my opinion, you're going to want to get full body red light treatment. And we have a medical grade device. So people are going to ask, well, what about this less expensive stuff that's out there? That's always an issue. No matter what, if you buy shoes, there are very cheap shoes and there are better. Do you want high quality that will work really well for you? Or do you want junk that'll break down after 2 wearings, whatever? Well, in the bed, medical grade means that the lights are very strong without getting hot. Heat is the enemy. Heat draws more blood to the surface, and that would absolutely block the penetration of the light. You don't want that. You want high-end medical grade lights that don't get hot. You also want that the top canopy come right down onto your body. You want the ability to customize the treatment, and that we can also pulse the wave. And I'll go into another time I can review why frequency treatment is also, resonating frequency treatment is also really great. And combining that with our bed is a wonderful thing.
So,
okay.
Now, one last question.
Okay.
If Trifecta Light was to be a movie, what would the theme song be?
If Trifecta Light was a movie?
A series.
Is that a series? What would the theme song be? I mean, it has something to do with get in the bed. I don't know. Is there a song like that? Hey, get in the bed.
That's perfect. Perfect.
All right, it's been a pleasure. I hope this all got recorded well, and I'm going to send you some information that you're more than welcome to send to your audience, okay?
Thank you so much. This has been so helpful. You have no idea. I'm
all
so
right,
honored.
you take care. Enjoy Kenya, all right?
All right, bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.